Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to episode 3 of Wafflin Around with Chris Stamos and your host, Tyler Sayuda.
How you guys doing today? We're ready to get back with episode number three, as Tyler said. I'm personally excited for this one. We've got a couple things here that I feel like me and Tyler both could talk a lot about. So how about we get right after it?
Sounds good to me.
So, buddy, this past weekend was a big one for you.
Yes, it
You're still
was.
living it, actually.
Yep,
Um, you had a North American Hockey League combine,
I did.
better known as the NAHL for our listeners. How did that go, and what did you think of it?
So in my opinion, it went pretty well. It's structured 4 games per team, right? So I want to say there were like 6 or 8 teams, with 3 goalies each, right? So the way we broke the games down, each goalie is going to get a period. So I started the first game, the second game I got the second period, third game I got the third period, and the fourth game I got the first period again. So that's just a little bit like how that works, at least as a goalie. 3 20-minute periods. I mean, you just go out there, you got to perform. So I mean, I let in 2 goals, so I did pretty solid.
So you let in two goals in about 120 minutes?
Is that
No, no, no,
I was
no, no.
gonna say
80 minutes.
80
80
minutes,
minutes.
80
There we
minutes, yeah.
go. There we go.
I was gonna say it doesn't.
That's a lot of minutes. Two goals, 80 minutes. That's just under two goals against average.
Yeah,
Save percentage, probably what? Nine tens, 9 15s, something
I'm
like
sure
that.
it's probably average, yeah.
Okay. So fair
Um,
enough. Now, let's kind of talk about, did you hear anything from any coaches?
yeah, I mean, not a lot of communication, honestly, at least with me. You'd think maybe as an 04, you'd get reached out to from a couple coaches. But it also could be that since I was a late entry to the combine, like I was on the waiting list, maybe they weren't as like prepared as they should have been trying to get the information about me. Um, but I didn't receive any coach contact information or anything like that. So
Okay. And with that, I don't want to see you discouraged with this because, at the end of the day, they could email you, get your information at a later point in time. So I'd say just keep looking at your email. You never know what could happen.
for
I've
sure,
heard so many stories of kids getting caught, then they make the team like at a later date. You never know. So just keep on it. I think you put yourself in a good position, I think.
for
At
sure.
least your name's out there and you showed what you could do. So that's really all that matters.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the next step is really just making sure my name is out there, contacting these coaches, seeing maybe what teams are losing O3s since they're age outs. Like if they have two O3s, maybe they're looking for an O4, O5 to come in, like play some games for them. So
Definitely. And you can kind of throw in how you did at these combines and stuff
for
as
sure.
a little bit of a boost to yourself. But yeah, why else are you staying in Columbus? Let's hear that.
So there is going to be another combine. Well, it's not a combine, it's a prospect skate for the Mavs. So
Okay. And when is this taking place?
so that is going to be tomorrow. Um,
Weekday.
yep, Monday.
Awesome. So by the time this goes up, it'll be yesterday if you're listening on the day of the release.
Correct.
So the 22nd, Tyler's skating with the Mavericks. Well, it's a league we're familiar with,
Oh,
so
for
I think that'll
sure.
be great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so want to wish you the best of luck with that. Hopefully stuff kind of works out with the NAHL Combine. I know you have a bunch of stuff coming up with junior skates as well, so
Mhm.
wish you the best of luck with that. We'll probably keep you guys on the podcast updated with how all our stuff goes.
For sure.
With me, I've got a prospect skate this weekend with my future college team that I just committed with. Gonna be formally committing this weekend, signing the papers, talking to coaches and going face to face rather than over the phone. So that's super exciting. Definitely keep you guys updated with that. But now, kind of want to talk about something a little bit controversial here in the goaltending
Oh
world.
boy, here we go.
And we had a lot of controversies with this year, and it's the two leg recovery.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a couple ways to look at this, right? So I
Well, hold
always
on. I think we should kind of explain what the two-leg recovery is for our non-goalie listeners, and
uh,
then we can go on from
all
there.
right, you explain it and
Okay.
then we'll talk about it.
So everybody knows the butterfly position. So you drop in your butterfly, and quote unquote, the fastest way to recover would be the two-leg recovery. You're finding your feet, both edges, as quickly as possible by springing up back to both feet, kind of like this. So you're engaging your core, you're shooting straight up out of your butterfly. Now, do I think that's the quickest way to recover? Sometimes. Is it the best way to recover? We'll touch on that right now. Let's
Yeah.
hear it, Tyler.
So what I was gonna say, right? Um, I mean, it's definitely an important tool to have in your toolbox, right? As a goalie, I think
Absolutely.
we should be able to incorporate every save selection. And you practice it so that you can do it in a game without having to think about it. So, like, let's say there's a quick shot at you, hits your chest, shoots right back out to a guy standing in front of the net again, and he's going to give a backdoor pass to this other guy. So, you get up off your feet, or you get on to your feet, and then you're ready to go whichever way he goes. And then if he makes that pass, you can get your full extension again to that backdoor save. Um,
Right. With that, though, I think by two-leg recovering, you're going to reduce the amount of ability you give yourself to get to that backdoor pass. Now, let me explain. When you two-leg recover, unless you are actually jumping out of your butterfly, your feet are in a very wide position. Give or take. Give or take. Depends on your hips, depends on your ability to do so.
for sure.
But for the most part, you end up more wide than you would in a normal, relaxed stance. Now, with a little bit of just goalie knowledge, when your feet are at a wider base, you lose power because your muscles are already extended, correct?
Yes.
Right? So if you are in that wide stance, you're reducing the ability to get to that backdoor pass because you don't have the load up, your muscles are already in extension, and you don't have the strength to get there as quickly. That's what I think. Now, in the case that a puck hits your chest or hits your blocker, your pads, your stick, and goes straight back out, and you want to do that two-leg recovery, I think that's a perfect time to do it because you find your feet and you're able to get your momentum coming back again. I think that's a great time to use it.
Yeah.
Now,
And
I was just watching game one of the Panthers and Lightning series, and in about the last minute of the game, I think Bobrovsky did it at least 4 or 5 times on the same exact type of play you were talking about too,
yeah,
where there's a guy on his left wing, fake shot, he drops, recovers two legs, and slides back door. Now, he made probably 3 or 4 saves after recovering from a two-leg recovery, but he did get burned on one because he wasn't able to get a big enough push off, and he did leave the short side open. Got scored on 3-2 game, ended up winning, but that's just a real life example I saw today.
for sure. And I mean, it's definitely a good tool to have in your toolbox, right? I know you're talking about you're losing your power once you widen your feet. Yes, that's true, but you could also work on your explosiveness from that wider stance.
Absolutely. That's
And
true.
I mean, I think that's a great thing to have anyway, honestly. Just
Hmm.
explosiveness from all like muscle lengths. So
Exactly. I do agree with you there. I do agree with you there. I think it can be used. It can be done in a proper fashion and an improper fashion. So, I'm not going to talk about when it's proper to use it, when it's not. I'm
everything's
not
situational. So
right, right. I'm not goalie coaching right now. I'm just chit-chatting. So,
right.
if you'd like, you could book us, a slot with me and we could talk about it. But, for the most part, we're not going to go too deep into that. But I
Yeah.
did like that discussion. We were kind of on the same page about something for once here.
Yeah, right.
So, um,
Let's talk a little bit about physical recovery now,
so
right?
we're talking about a
So
different type of recovery.
yeah.
Yeah, I like this.
Because I know after practice you were really at least when we were together, you were really focused on like making sure you weren't sore the next day, essentially.
Right. Yeah,
So
that
go
was
ahead and talk
huge.
about that.
So, with this season, with the past season coming in, I was like, man, I really got to treat my body better. We're playing 44 games almost every weekend. We're playing at least one or two or maybe even three or four at some points. So I was like, man, I really got to take care of my body, especially if I'm playing a lot. And with four practices a week, it does get pretty tiring. We did have off ice twice a week as well. So it was just even more hours my body was getting torn up. So I went into the season with the mindset of always prepare your body for practice and always leave practice prepared for the next day. That was kind of my mindset. So I'd show up to practice about an hour early. If I could get there earlier, even better. Um, Now to start with recovery, you have to prepare for your physical, activity. So I'd stretch, warm up my body, make sure it was prepared to perform. And then after we'd either work out or just skate, I would do some static stretching, um, kind of drain some of that built up, you know, pressure from the activity, release my muscles from their most tense positions, and kind of, roll out my hips, my groin, really get everything loose again. And I noticed the more I stayed consistent with that typical plan. So if I stretched before and stretched after, I would show up the next day feeling much better than I would if I didn't do any of that. So that was my main thing. Also drinking a lot of water before, drinking a lot of water after. Um, Eating good meals after I got done skating. That was a big one. I also noticed eating before skating is huge in recovery because you still have some residual fuel left over from skating. Then you eat, you're nice and full. Your body can break it all down, deliver it to your muscles. You're not going to be as fatigued.
For
So that
sure.
was kind of big on that. Sorry for yapping, but just had to go into a little bit of little depth with that one. But yeah, I'm kind of big on the recovery aspect. I think I could do better with it for sure. Maybe some protein shakes or, recovery type foods like protein shakes, stuff like that. Eating a little bit better, finding maybe a little bit better stretching routine that isn't kind of half-assed, but I mean, what do you think? I know you have a little bit of a different strategy when it comes to that.
Um, well, I mean, it's definitely good to make sure you're eating proper and everything. And obviously, we're not dietitians, but um,
Absolutely not. I'm the furthest from it.
yeah, right. But it is great to make sure that your body is fueled with carbs, fats, proteins, because those are really what you're going to be using. So you want to get those carbs in you, carb load, right? Like everybody would say, but you also want to supplement that with protein, right? You want to have the mix of the two because the carbs are going to be so there's simple carbs and there's complex carbs, right? Simple carbs are like your sugars, which are going to be processed a lot quicker, which is going to turn into energy quicker. Complex carbs are going to take a little longer to be broken down. So those will be used progressively as you work out. And then the protein, obviously, you're looking to keep your muscles as strong as they already are. You don't want to like lose any muscle mass because you were working out for too long or something like that. Um, but when it comes to physical recovery, I mean, it's definitely a good thing to like make sure your muscles are in that relaxed state. Um, and I mean, I wasn't really into stretching after practice. I kind of just let my body go, and then I do some like dynamic stretches the next day before practice to try to get myself ready to go. And I think that is probably it was probably a hindrance to my performance, not being able to uh, relax my muscles after practice. Um, and I think I'm not as flexible as I should be because of that. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that. Real quick, I have one more question for you though about this topic.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I know towards the end of the season, you were kind of getting in a bad habit of maybe forgetting a couple of days that you got to stretch. How did your body
Absolutely.
feel after not stretching?
That's funny because I made it sound like I was doing this all the time, but as the season kind of progressed, I got kind of caught up in my work, getting extra days, extra shifts. So I was showing up to the rink a little bit later, wasn't getting a full stretch in before. And then I had work one or two, maybe three nights, sometimes a week, and I couldn't stretch after practice. And as the weeks went on with less and less stretching before and after, I definitely felt a reduction in my ability to perform the next day. And even like on the ice as a coach, like I could feel my body getting tight, getting, sore, getting weak, and it wasn't fun at all. Uh I felt my groin was kind of giving out a little bit towards the end. Kind of having some issues with that there now. My hips definitely don't feel very good in the last two or three skates I've been skating. So, yeah, definitely stay consistent with your pre and post workout activities. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm just going to tell you to do something. Whatever works for you, please do that. It'll only help, you know, get you through the season in a much, much better way.
For sure.
But yeah, for sure. It definitely took a toll on how I felt.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's talk about Salt Lake a little bit and their new
Yeah, let's
team.
switch it up. Let's switch it up. We're not going our own personal experiences now. We're going full blown NHL, the league. So
This is a hot topic, right?
this is
So
a hot topic,
the Yotes, they don't have a stadium in Arizona right now. They don't have their own. They're sharing it with ASU. And
hmm
the NHL didn't like that, right? They're like, look, you either got to build a stadium or we're going to move your franchise. So essentially, it's moving to Utah, Salt Lake City, right? And they're going to
Yep.
be resuming operations as per usual. So I'm not super involved in this story, but I know you said you had a couple more thoughts on it. So go ahead.
Yeah. So it is confirmed they're not using the Salt Lake name in their team name. It's going to be Utah followed by the team name. Um, there's been rumors about the name. I don't know what to believe, whatever, that doesn't really matter. So it is going to be Utah followed by the team name, which is interesting to me. They're not using the city. Only a few teams that actually do that. Um, but yeah, that's point number one, which is definitely interesting. Number two is the team gets their roster, their prospects, almost everything from right now, currently, and the future. So anything that belonged to the Coyotes is theirs except for records, retired players, retired numbers. Um, Anything historical is with the Coyotes and not this new franchise. So old Winnipeg and old Coyotes, that's completely in the past. They are now an inactive franchise, and Utah doesn't take anything historical with them that the Coyotes, had.
Gotcha. And
What do you think of that?
I mean, I guess there's not enough of a following in Arizona to build
Right?
a rink. But I mean, as far as the historical context goes, I mean, technically it's a relocation of the franchise.
hmm
So you should be taking that prior history with you because I mean, it's the franchise, but it's just not called the franchise. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's just changing names.
But we were also talking about how there's a possibility in the next 5 years for them to become an expansion team, right? So you gotta have a stadium built within the next 5 years, and then they can have the expansion draft to get back into the NHL to become an
Right. And
actual
so
team.
we have seen this happen before with the Jets. They were a team, and I believe they became Arizona, well, Phoenix at the time. and then became an inactive franchise and now are the Winnipeg Jets again. But they have no like connection as a team. So old Winnipeg and new Winnipeg, not the same team, not the same history, not the same records, nothing. Which is interesting. So I feel like that's how the Coyotes are going to be. They're going to be, completely brand new, different, or they can take the history but use a different roster. I don't know how that would work. I
Yeah,
honestly
I
don't.
mean,
I think that's interesting.
for sure.
Um, we can only figure it out in the next coming 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, and I mean, in my opinion, at least, I think it would be more reasonable for Utah to take the Coyotes' history with them because they're taking
Right.
their roster with them. So the Coyotes are in Utah. So basically, they're Utah Coyotes right now, but obviously that's not what they're going to be
They're
named.
not. So
But my point being, like, it's the Coyotes, but they're in Utah now. So I feel like all the Coyotes' history should be coming with them.
that's what I would think too, Ty. But I don't know. This has been a very interesting story, something I've never really seen personally. Um, but yeah, relocation with a completely brand new system. Kind of weird.
Yeah, for sure.
I know the Expos commented on this whole situation and said they're an inactive franchise and they'd love to reopen. So
Yeah, I saw that.
that'll be interesting. I know Coach Maltz would be real happy with that. He'd be thrilled. He'd be thrilled. And they might be making a movie about the Expos, I heard.
Oh yeah?
Or they did. They either did or they will be, but or both. I heard it's really good though, if or it will be really good because it's a good story. So
Yeah, I'll have to go see
yeah,
that. I'm a big baseball guy.
that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. So, what else did you want to bring us to? I know you had one more topic in mind. Maybe we can kind of do a little scatterbrain at the end here
Well,
after this topic.
this one's kind of a hot take. So maybe we'll
Uh-oh.
have to have a hot take segment at the end of our show.
Uh-oh.
And it's gonna be, should you pull the goalie? So as a
Yeah.
goalie coach, what's your opinion on that?
Well, we saw it today. Panthers, Lightning. John Cooper pulls his goalie with 3:09 left in the third, down a goal. Panthers did capitalize on the pull goalie, made it 3-1. But the Lightning struck back 3-2 without a goalie and had an opportunity with about 9.5 seconds left to tie the game up and send it to OT. So they did have a little discussion after the game, like a little post game, talk, and they're saying they liked the move that Cooper pulled his goalie when he did. If that was you in game one of the playoffs, are you pulling your goalie with 3 minutes left?
Yeah, I mean that's always tough, right? Because you don't want to get scored on again, right? But at the same time, it's the playoffs.
Right.
If you're down, what are the chances you're scoring that extra goal, right? I mean, you don't have anything to lose, right? If you're already down, so you might as well just send it at that point, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Um, but Minnesota Wild, they decide in overtime that they want to pull their goalie. What do
Now
we think
that
about that?
that is interesting. Now to explain this, if you win with your goalie pulled, you do get your 2 points. You win the game. The other team gets a point for taking it to OT. But if the other team wins the game while you have an empty net in overtime, you forfeit that extra point you get for taking it to overtime. So if you lose, you do not get that overtime point. Interesting.
It is
They did it
very,
twice. They did it twice this year, and it worked 50% of the time.
yeah, it's not
So,
bad. It's not bad.
so what are we thinking there?
I mean, if you're the Wild, you have nothing to lose. You're not in, I don't, I mean, I haven't been keeping up with the NHL that much, but I understand if you're not in playoff contention, if you're not worried about an extra 1 or 2 points throughout the season. And I mean, you're just looking for wins, right? Like
Right.
as a franchise, your goal is to win. You want to win games. So if you're not in contention for the playoffs, I don't really see a reason to not do it. At that point, you just kind of want to win as much as you can.
Well, the difference is they were in playoff contention, but they were not in a playoff spot.
Gotcha.
So they had the chance with whatever kind of math it worked out to make the playoffs if they did get the 2 points. So you have a fair point in saying that if you're not in a playoff spot and these points are, two or nothing, like
Hmm.
it's do or die, sure, go for it. But if you are in a playoff spot and you're just trying to do it to push, second or first place in your division,
Probably
maybe not so good of a choice because you do want to take all those points you can get at the end of the day.
for sure.
But I do think, having a do or die situation like that, 2 points or nothing, like give me the 2 points.
Might
I
as
need those
well,
2 points,
right?
Um, interesting
Yeah,
scenario.
for sure. Now we can wrap around to the other side of pulling the goalie, right?
Right.
Uh, at least in youth levels, what are your thoughts on like substituting the goalie?
So I wanted to bring this up, and this is kind of a good time to do so. But I don't know where I heard this information from. Sorry, I'm coming in kind of blind. Um, but the longer you have a goalie pulled, the higher the odds you score a goal are.
Okay.
Now let me explain. By every minute you have an empty net, you increase your odds of scoring a goal by 20%. So if you have, let's just say the base number is 1 minute, you have a 20% chance of scoring a goal with an empty net. And you pull the goalie in a minute earlier, then those odds are now 40%. Now, this doesn't include the percentage of them scoring a goal. This has nothing to do with the odds of the other team scoring. So, with that being said, what are your thoughts on, youth hockey, pulling the goalie, even up to the pro level? Like, what are you doing in most situations?
Well, yeah, it's definitely all situational, right? In the youth levels, USA Hockey wants you to substitute the goalies halfway through the game. They want you to switch them out, get them some reps, get you going. Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, they do. They definitely do.
Oh, I don't know, man.
Oh, I'll
That's
take my
that's
coaching
another
buzzer.
topic for after pulling the goalie. That'll be our scatterbrain category of the day. Splitting games half and half.
Well, they want so. I mean, it's kind of substituting the goalie, right? You're switching one for the other.
Right.
So,
We're kind of tying that together, but let's talk about that after this. So let's talk about pulling the goalie for an extra attacker, not a different goalie. Let's
okay,
keep it at
okay.
this. Let's keep it at that, and then we could go for substitutions after.
I mean, it's like we were saying before, right? How bad do you need the points? At the end of the day, if you need to win, you might as well take the chance.
Right.
You are increasing the chances of getting scored on when you pull your goalie.
But you're
Naturally,
increasing your chances of scoring.
that's also true.
So kind of looking at it that way, if you increase the odds of them scoring, but you also increase the odds of you scoring, why not just stay 5-on-5 and, you know, keep their odds lower, but also kind of keep your odds lower? With that, I think here's what I would do. If I really so badly needed a goal, like so badly, yeah, I'll pull my goalie. Like I really need a point or 2 points, whatever, I'll pull my goalie. But early in the year, maybe I go 5-on-5, but I kind of, set a very aggressive play to the point where like, yeah, I'm kind of giving up a 2-on-0
Everybody's
breakaway, something like
pinching.
that.
We're selling
Right.
out on the blue line.
Right. Let's all buy in on a goal. I think it would kind of base it on where I'm at in the standings, the situation at hand, and the time of year it is. Like if it's early in the year and you don't get that extra point, okay, let's just win a couple extra down the stretch. But if it's late in the year and you really need that win, all right, yeah, I'm gonna buy in. I'm gonna pull the goalie. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a fair way to do it if I'm head coaching. Like as a goalie coach, there's really nothing like I could say that's gonna change any head coach's mind. Doesn't really matter what I say because it's not really affecting the goalie stats wise or mentally. They just need to win.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, and as a goalie, you want your team to win. So
right.
you're trying to make sure that they do that. So if you have to come off the ice, you do.
Right. And I will say I've had some great moments on the bench with my team tying up a game late. I will say that. Being down, we were down 3-0 one game going into the third. I wasn't playing my best game in my own opinion, but whatever, I end up making some few key saves at the end, and we end up climbing back 3-1 and then 3-2, and I get pulled. No, hold on. We were down 3-0, make it 3-1. I get pulled, make it 3-2. I get re-pulled again. We tie at 3-3. This is all in like the last minute of the game. And I just remember the sheer excitement we had on the bench, just like going absolutely bonkers because we tied up this game against like what could be a divisional rival after our playoff series that year. But yeah, it was a lot of fun being on that bench and like just like clawing back at a game like that. And I mean, there's plenty more stories, but they're not as fresh in my mind as that one. But yeah, that was definitely a good one for sure.
So do you think we'll have time to talk about that or no?
So we have about 7 minutes to talk about um, switching the goalies halfway. So I say we go for it.
All right. USA Hockey says that you're supposed to substitute the goalies halfway through the game. Some coaches will substitute the goalie if you get scored on a certain amount of times. So let's talk about like your opinion on switching the goalie after a certain amount of goals, at least in
So
youth
to be
levels.
to be clear, USA Hockey also wants icing on penalty kills and offsides the second the puck goes offside. So we can see they're not doing a good job at what they're doing.
Well, I mean, there's also reasons those which we could talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a fan of a lot of USA's hockey model. We'll go on to that in a later video. But to keep it on task here, um, pulling the goalie or changing the goalie, I should say. Um, Changing the goalie after allowing a certain amount of goals early on in a game has been kind of around forever. It's been a thing as long as hockey's been around. The guy's not having a good night, put in the new goalie, give your team a little bounce back and see where it goes. Do I think that's going to win you the game at the end of the day? No. Is it going to mess up the goalie that started that game a little bit? Probably. But it might it might buy you a few extra saves, give your backup goalie some time in the game and ultimately help out a little bit. What do you think? Do you think it will help out at all or no?
Well, at least at the younger ages, I think it's probably more beneficial for the goalies that battle it out, get that experience,
Yeah.
not have to worry so much about the pressure being pulled.
Yep.
Um,
I would agree there. I would agree there for
because I
sure.
mean, there have been a couple times this year I got pulled, right? Um, and I mean, some of them I was like, okay, yeah. Some of them I was like, are you serious? Are you actually pulling me right now?
Fair
And
enough.
I mean, it's just like your job as a goalie, like I was saying last
Last week, yeah.
podcast last week, is to put yourself in a position to stop the puck, right?
Right.
Which that can also circle around to put your position or put your team in a position to win the game.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're keeping the game competitive, I don't think there's a reason for you to get pulled.
No. And I'm kind of big on that let your goalie battle it out, figure it out because my time playing youth hockey was a lot of it was me on my own. I had no goalie partner. So if I was getting shelled 7, 8, 9, 10, even like 13 sometimes, I'm not getting relieved. I'm staying in the net. And so when I get pulled after 2 or 3 goals early in a game, I kind of think like, okay, could be the only one here and I could have been at 13 right now. So definitely I think, having that younger goalie face everything and not really have a reliever could be a good thing at the end of the day and kind of get them to realize like, hey, it's not that bad, could be worse, could have nobody to help me out. It's just not my day, you know.
Now, to that point, you could also argue that if you are, let's say you're not a very good team, uh, you do split the games evenly. That way, they're each getting half, right? They're each getting
Yeah,
the, like, let's say you're expected to give up 10 goals, right? You don't want one goalie to let up 10 goals. You'd rather two of them let up five than, because,
true.
I mean, there's no reason at that point to keep that one guy playing more than the other guy.
Right.
And I mean,
So I'm never fond on splitting games half and half.
that's fair.
One goalie starts like normal, the other guy comes in to a game halfway through ice cold.
Well, I mean, it's
You
also
know,
depending on situation, right?
right. If it like at the younger age they want you to split games half and half, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see a reason for it.
Well, yeah,
Yes,
because you can
everybody's getting their
alternate
reps. Everybody's getting their reps. Everybody's seeing pucks. Everybody's in every game. But at the other side of it, when you get to the older ages, you're expected to start and finish a game. So why aren't we teaching that at a younger age? It's like
for
hitting.
sure.
8-year-olds aren't going to kill each other if 8-year-olds know how to take and receive a hit.
Right,
They're expected to do it at age 14, 15, 16, and on. Why can't they do it at age 8?
right.
Stuff like that. So
Yeah,
why can't
and
a younger guy start the game and finish the game like a pro or an older youth or junior goalie can? That's kind of my thing. Prepare your younger players for what's to come in the next few years.
and that also helps them develop the skill to use the body check at a proper time, right?
Exactly.
You got to separate them from the puck. And as an 8-year-old, if you're running into somebody and taking the puck away, that's a good play. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's no
And
reason you should get penalized for that.
that's the same with a goalie. You've got to know how to think a full 60 minutes. Can't, you can't teach, oh, I got somebody coming in so I can finish up.
Yeah.
It's in a minute. So all I want to say is train your goalies to do what they got to do at the next level. Um, but yeah, I think that was a good episode. Definitely talked about some things that we wanted to talk about. So
Thanks for joining
wrap it
us.
up.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.